Greetings, everyone. Hope all of you are having an absolutely fantastic day. I had a strong desire to create a Shadowheart who completely revolved around holy damage, and I decided to do that for this last run. Mind you, that probably is not the most optimized version of a cleric. It's questionable, especially from a gear standpoint, whether or not it makes sense to go all holy damage, but I'm really happy with the way that it turned out, so I figured I'd share it with all of you. So first and foremost, obviously, we're going to pick Cleric, and that's going to give us the ability to choose a couple of cantrips. We absolutely want Sacred Flame because it's going to let us deal damage without having to expend a spell slot, which is going to be very, very useful in the beginning. We also want Guidance. It's going to give us a 1d4 bonus to ability checks, and that includes speech checks for persuasion, intimidation, and things of that nature. We are going to use this all the time, the entire game, so you definitely want to pick it up as well. Resistance is going to give you a 1d4 bonus to saving throws for up to 10 turns, and it is a concentration spell. Not nearly as useful as the first two and something I use a lot less, but also still not bad to have on the list. Now, from a canon perspective, Shadowheart uses the trickery domain, but to be honest with you, I'm just not a big fan of it. It focuses a lot on creating illusions and distractions and things of that nature. Even when I'm doing an evil run with Shadowheart and going all in on Shar, I still just don't find trickery to be all that appealing. So for this one, I wanted, of course, to focus on holy damage, so I wanted to pick up the light domain. This is going to do several things for us. First and foremost, it's going to give us the light cantrip. Very useful to illuminate spaces, and it's pretty much essential when you come to Act 2, so it's great to be able to pick it up here. And then Light Domain is also going to provide us with a couple of spells. Burning Hands is going to do anywhere from 3 to 18 damage and a cone within 5 meters. I very rarely use this, to be honest with you. It just doesn't do enough damage, and it's not easy enough to apply for it to be used on a regular basis. We also get Fairy Fire, and this is going to cause all targets within 18 meters to have a light on them that turns them visible, and attack rolls against them have advantage. This is a fantastic way to allow your party members to be able to hit multiple enemies much easier, so it's great to have in your repertoire. And then finally, we get the Warding Flare feature, and this allows you to use your reaction to impose disadvantage on an attacker, possibly causing their attack to miss. Now, this is a really nice way to hopefully get enemies to miss, but as you'll see later on, because of the armor that we're focused on, we're nearly not going to be able to stack AC sky high. So even though you'll trigger this all the time, you'll find that enemies are still able to hit you even with disadvantage on a pretty regular basis. Alright, now when it comes to ability points, we don't need strength at all, so we just ended up having a couple of extra points and we dumped them into strength here. Dexterity is obviously very important for initiative, and it's going to add a little bit to our armor class since we are going to be focusing on medium armor. So we'll put the +1 bonus here and get it up to 16. We'll get Constitution up to 15 because through feats we'll get it to 16 later on. You don't need intelligence or charisma at all, so you can completely dump them. And then obviously wisdom is the main ability for clerics, so we want to get it up to 16 and we'll put a +2 bonus there. As far as skills go, history is not common on party members, so it's nice to be able to have someone who's proficient in it, even though it doesn't come up very often. She's also proficient in religion, which actually comes up a decent amount of times, so it's nice to have someone with this. Insight comes up a ton, and Shadowheart is really good at it, so that's awesome to have. You can skip medicine. It only comes up a couple of times, and neither one of them are particularly relevant, so it's not worth being proficient here. And then, of course, we have one more proficiency we could take, so we just go ahead and plug it into Persuasion, even though I wasn't using Shadowheart as my main character. Alright, starting at level 2, we're going to get another Channel Divinity charge, and we're going to get a Channel Divinity action, Turn Dead, which is going to allow us to pray to turn all undead that can see you. And undead that have been turned causes them to be unable to take actions, bonus actions, or reactions other than dash, or try to escape an effect that prevents movement. So this is great to use against large undead groups, and there are going to be a lot of times in the game where you're going to be facing those types of creatures. So yeah, it's great to have in your repertoire. You're also going to get Radiance of the Dawn, which does 2d10 plus 1 radiant damage in a 9-meter area of effect. This is fantastic to have, especially as you get more items and features that cause enemies to take certain effects when they take holy damage from you. It allows you to impact multiple enemies at one time. Definitely, this is something that you want. At level 3, you're going to get access to level 2 spells. Hold Person is great when you're dealing with a humanoid enemy, as it allows you to essentially freeze them, and attacks against them within 3 meters are always going to be critical hits. And this lasts for 10 turns as long as you're able to maintain concentration. So yeah, great to have. You'll also get Spiritual Weapon, which can be activated with a bonus action and a level 2 spell slot, and it summons a spectral weapon that operates independently from you and can deal damage. Now, the disadvantage of this weapon is that it's very slow. So once it kills the enemy that it's around, or once there are no more enemies beside it, it takes a while for it to be able to reach a different group of enemies. So sometimes it's actually faster to just recast it in the exact spot that you want it to be. But for just a bonus action, it's a great way to dish out some additional damage. And my apologies, I just realized that I completely skipped over level 1 spells. So out of the level 1 list, Bless is absolutely fantastic. You're going to be able to bless up to 3 creatures unless you upcast it to a different level, and then it'll allow you to bless the entire team. And all of them will gain a 1d4 bonus to attack rolls and saving throws. This is absolutely a monster spell to have early on. You also are going to want a Healing Word, which allows you to deal a small amount of health with a bonus action. And the advantage of this is, by healing allies, it allows you to raise them up when they've been downed by enemies. So being able to do that with just a bonus action allows you to use your regular action still to attack. So this is great for your action economy. Guiding Bolt is a fantastic way to deal ranged radiant damage. Now, overall in Baldur's Gate 3, I feel like the dice are very fair. Guiding Bolt is the only area where I feel like, for whatever reason, it seems like the dice work against you, and this attack misses way more than it actually should. So honestly, even though I kept an honor the entire game, I very rarely used it because I was consistently disappointed by the results, which was not the case for a lot of the other spells. The last option that I mentioned here is Inflict Wounds. This is great to use when you're in melee range. It's going to do more damage than what you can do with Guiding Bolt. And even undead are not resistant to necrotic damage. So there are very few enemies that are going to be able to nullify this spell's effects. So it's a great option. At level 4, you get another cantrip. I would go ahead and pick up Blade Ward, which reduces by half the damage you take from bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing attacks. This is definitely nice to have if you're in more of a take role, but again, Minthara is the one who served that role on my team. Shadowheart was very careful about picking her targets, so I didn't need to use Blade Ward all that often. And then at level 4, you get to also select a feat. We're going to go ahead and pick up Resilient, and specifically we're going to get Resiliency in Constitution. So this is going to increase that ability by 1, so now it's going to be an even 16. And we're going to gain proficiency in that ability saving throws. This makes a big difference. I did not pick this up in my first run, and I felt like Shadowheart was losing concentration on her spells all the freaking time. With this, she was able to get really hit up consistently throughout the game, and yet still hold on to her spells. Just absolutely a must-have when you're running a cleric who uses a lot of their concentration related powers. At level 5, you're going to pick up Destroy Undead, which is triggered when you turn an undead creature and causes it to take between 4 and 24 radiant damage. Again, that fits right in with what we're trying to do as a build, so this is great to have. You're also going to unlock level 3 spells. So out of this list, Animate Dead is fantastic because being able to stack up different summons and have them follow you around is a great way to mitigate what the enemies are able to do. Most of the time, you're going to be heavily outnumbered by whatever group you're facing, and so having a bunch of summons who can deal a little bit of damage and also serve as cannon fodder is going to really help even the odds. Daylight will cause an item to shine brightly, or you can illuminate an area to up to 18 meters. Absolutely fantastic in Act 2 when a lot of enemies depend upon darkness. Not quite as useful in Acts 1 and 3, but still nice to have in a pinch. Is definitely something you want in your arsenal. Mass Healing Word does the same thing as Healing Word, but it'll do it to up to 6 allies. So if you're really in a bad spot where multiple people are down, this is going to be great to have. Remove Curse isn't something that you'll want to have slotted all the time, but there are definitely some situations in the game where curses will be placed on you, and the only way to properly remove them is with this spell. So it's nice to have somebody on your team who's capable of casting it. Revivify and Speak with Dead are both very useful, but you should be getting both of them from scrolls. And then finally, the real gem of this spell level, Spirit Guardians. This is going to call for spirits to protect you, and any enemies within 3 meters are going to take either 3 to 24 radiant damage or necrotic damage, and their movement speed is halved. This is absolutely a monster spell. There are a lot of enemies that will rush towards you regardless of what damage they might take, such as the little brain enemies and the ghouls and creatures of that nature. Having something like this that punishes those enemies for trying to surround you is going to really be to your advantage. And then finally, you do get a couple of light domain spells. So you're going to pick up Daylight from your domain. And then you're also going to get Fireball, which personally is my favorite area of effect spell in the game. But you really need to be set up to take advantage of Fireball. And Shadowheart's not. You really need something that's going to add some additional fireball damage, and you want to use some gear that's going to help to ensure enemies are not able to make their dexterity save. We don't have all of that, so honestly, in my playthrough, Fireball just wasn't all that great because she wasn't able to do consistent good damage with it. At level 6, she's going to get another Divinity's Charge, and she's going to get improved Warding Flare. When an enemy attacks an ally, you can use your reaction to impose disadvantage on the attack roll, possibly causing their attack to miss. Absolutely fantastic to have, especially if you have an ally with relatively decent AC who just needs to force an enemy to reroll once to most likely cause this. So definitely nice to have someone on your team capable of using this. At level 7, you unlock level 4 spells. The only one that I would consider using is one you also get from having the light domain, and that's Guardian of Faith. This is going to call forth a divine guardian that attacks nearby enemies. You'll be able to see a circle around it that shows you the area in which enemies have to be in order for them to be attacked. And every time this Guardian of Faith deals damage, the Guardian is going to lose an equal amount of hit points. So this is kind of 6 of one hand, half a dozen of the other. On the one hand, the Guardian of Faith really doesn't have a lot of hit points, so it's not going to be able to attack that many times before it's going to end up essentially killing itself. But the advantage of using this is there are definitely some enemies that can attack multiple times from melee. So if they're standing in that circle and they attack over and over and over again, they're going to take 10 to 20 radiant damage over and over and over again. And so you can use this to essentially wipe an enemy out, even though it's not actually your turn. I don't personally care for it, but it definitely does have at least some merit, so you might find it works for you. At level 8, you get potent spell casting, which allows you to add your wisdom modifier to the damage you deal with cleric cantrips. I almost never use the cleric cantrips, especially at this late stage, so this is pretty much irrelevant. You're also going to be able to choose a feat, so I would go to ability improvement and put 2 more points into wisdom. It's going to help to ensure that a lot of your spells that have a save actually connect. At level 9, you're going to unlock level 5 spells. Me personally, the one I like the most is, again, one that you unlock from the light domain, Flame Strike. And this is going to allow you to deal 5d6 fire and radiant damage within an 18-meter radius. It looks great. Definitely enjoy using this. Again, you're not all that great with fire, but radiant damage is going to apply some additional effects on enemies. So any spell that allows you to deal more of it is good to have. The light domain will also give you Destructive Wave, which creates a shock wave of either divine or malevolent thunder that damages nearby creatures and possibly knocks them prone. This will deal both thunder and radiant damage, but you don't have, or rather, it's very difficult to ensure that this doesn't damage your party members, so I didn't use it very often. At level 10, you get Divine Intervention. You can use Divine Intervention to invoke your god's aid, but once used, this can never be used again. This is actually really, really nice. So I try to save it for the very last fight in the game, but basically it can revive and heal your entire party. It can cause all enemies that you're going up against to take holy damage of a certain amount. Like, the effects are actually really, really cool. So it's nice, again, waiting until the last minute of your playthrough and then pulling this out. It literally feels like you're calling upon your god to stand for you when you need it the most. Really, really cool stuff. You do get to select one additional cantrip, pick whatever you like. At level 11, you unlock level 6 spells. So you have Create Undead here, which is going to allow you to create a summon out of a corpse, or you can also use Planar Ally, which is going to allow you to pull out a summon essentially from another plane. So either way, it's going to allow you to put another creature on the field that will serve as cannon fodder while doing some damage and helping to even the odds, so that's always good stuff. Harm can also sometimes have its uses. You reduce a target's maximum hit points, but never below 1. So technically this does damage, but only for a limited amount of time, right? Until they might be able to find some way to overcome it. But it can actually be a great way of making an enemy's health pool much more manageable. So there are definitely a couple of times where I used this in order to limit the amount of time I had to take in order to put an enemy down. And then for the last feat, I like Lucky. This is going to give you 3 luck points, which you can use to gain advantage on attack rolls, ability checks, or saving throws, or to make an enemy re-roll their attack rolls. So it's just all around a great way to either limit the damage that's coming to you or to help ensure you're connecting with the abilities that you use. And you can use Lucky as a reaction, so it's not like you have to know ahead of time that these luck points would be beneficial to you. So I think it's just really, really nice to have. All right, now looking at the gear. For the helmet, we've got the Holy Lance Helm. Creatures who miss their attack rolls against the wearer must make a dexterity saving throw, or they're going to take 1d4 radiant damage. Again, we want to pump out as much radiant damage as possible, so this was great. When a creature with reverberation deals damage to the wearer, the creature needs to make a Constitution saving throw, or it will become dazed. And dazed creatures have disadvantage on wisdom saving throws, can't take reactions, and they lose the dexterity bonus to their armor class. So it really helps you to be able to kill these enemies faster. Reverberation causes an affected creature to have a -1 penalty to strength, dexterity, and constitution saving throws. And if they have 5 or more points of reverberation, it'll also take 1d4 thunder damage and possibly fall prone. The condition is removed afterwards. So what is going to cause enemies to take that? Well, some of our other items. So the armor that we're using is the luminous armor. When the wearer deals radiant damage, they cause a radiant shockwave. If you cause a shockwave, you're going to inflict radiating orb. And this is going to cause the creature that's effective to have a -1 penalty to attack rolls per remaining turn. So you can stack this up and really debuff enemies' attempts to be able to deal damage towards you. And this is also going to shed a bright light, always ensuring enemies are well lit up enough for them to be attacked. And then looking at the gloves, we have gloves of belligerent skies. When the wearer deals thunder damage, lightning damage, or radiant damage, inflict 2 turns of reverberation upon the target. So obviously that folds right in with the helm. And then for boots, we have the Hell Dust boots. You cannot be forcibly moved by foe spells or actions, and you ignore the effects of difficult terrain. When you fail a saving throw, you may use your reaction to succeed instead. All of that is very nice. And then you also get Hellcrawler, which allows her to teleport to an area and deal 2 through 16 fire damage where you land. The impact blast spreads in a 3-meter zone. So this is really nice for when we have Spirit Guardians enabled and I want to get into the largest groups of enemies I possibly can. This is going to allow me to just teleport and land right where I need to. For the amulet, we have Amulet of Misty Step. It takes a long time to get these teleportation boots, so you're going to get this amulet way earlier, and it's going to, again, give you that teleport option. For the ring, when concentrating on a spell, the wearer's weapon attacks deal an additional 1d4 psychic damage. We'll be concentrating on a spell pretty much constantly, but using our weapon very rarely. But those rare times when we do, it's nice to have a little bit extra damage on it. And then Ring of Mental Inhibition. When a foe fails a saving throw against one of your spells or actions, they gain mental fatigue for 2 turns. And mental fatigue applies a -1 penalty to wisdom, intelligence, and charisma saving throws for every turn remaining. With our spells, enemies should be failing their saving throw constantly, and so this is going to be triggered quite a bit. I messed up and forgot to upgrade her bow, or I think I was playing around and moving things around, so I didn't have anything here, but usually I'd want a bow that increases her ability to do critical damage or is going to increase her initiative, something of that sort. For the shield, I do still have Kethric's shield, so I'm going to gain a +1 bonus to spell save DC and spell attack rolls. And when a foe hits me with a melee attack, I can use a reaction to knock it prone unless they succeed a dexterity saving throw. And I have advantage on dexterity saving throw checks. So all of that, very nice. It's definitely nice to have that increase to spell save DC. And then finally, of course, the mace is the Blood of Lathander. So once per long rest, when my hit points are reduced to 0, I'm going to instead regain anywhere from 2 to 12 hit points. And allies within 9 meters regain a little bit of hit points as well. The mace is going to shed light in a 6-meter radius, and in combat, fiends and undead, which we face plenty of, who are standing in the light are blinded unless they pass a Constitution saving throw. And blinded enemies have disadvantage on attack rolls, and their range of attacks and spells is reduced to 3 meters, and attack rolls against them have advantage. So all around, this is just great stuff. And then finally, we do get Sunbeam, which is going to create a beam that goes out for 18 meters, and it's going to deal 6d8 damage along that path, and it's going to blind all the creatures in this path. Now, this does impact party members, but usually it's very easy to ensure that it's only targeting enemies. So this is absolutely fantastic to have, and all the way around, I feel like this is a gear setup that really benefits from you dealing holy damage as often as possible. All right, so now we're in a combat example. Let's come over here first, and then we'll go to spell slot 6, and we will select Spirit Guardians, and we'll go ahead and use it for radiant damage. And excellent. So that did a nice bit of damage, put radiating orbs on most of the people around us, and now we'll be able to chill. You see they took a little bit more damage when they came within the field, and now with this character attacking me, I can either choose Warden Flare or I could just force them to re-roll their die with lucky. We'll go ahead and choose reward and flare. And we took damage, but the saving throw succeeded, so it's still nice to have. All right, we're back. And you see all the enemies crowded up over here. They completely avoided me, but that's no problem. That's why I have teleportation. Or I can just fly over there in this situation. So we'll just fly over. And bam, now we're going to hit all of the enemies doing, it's not enough damage to actually kill them, but it puts them in really, really bad shape. And so then we could do something like Radiance of the Dawn, which at this point is going to do 2d10 plus 12 damage to all enemies within the area of effect. So we can go ahead and use that. And it absolutely obliterates the vast majority of enemies that are around me. And then more enemies walk up and take some additional holy damage. Okay, so now we're back again. And there we go. First it wasn't letting me move. So move over here. And these two, will give them some damage. And, you know, we'll go ahead. Oh, no, it won't let us do that. That's fine. Here, why don't we just go ahead and do this? Well, in fact, let me move over a little bit over here. He attacked me. We'll use lucky this time, and that was a critical miss. All right, now we're going to go ahead and use the sunbeam, which is going to capture 3 of them. Excellent. So we killed one of them and did nice damage to the other 2. This creature ran in, took some more damage. Those 2 creatures ran in, both of them died. All right, and Shadowheart's on our last leg, but she's destroying so many of these other enemies, and my other 3 characters have not been doing anything at all. So, of course, in a regular combat situation, they would be getting involved. They would help mitigate some of the damage she's taking. But in this case, she's just a one-woman army taking on all comers, so it works out the way that it did. We can go ahead and do one of these again. And there you go. Wipes them all out. So yeah, definitely enjoyed this build. Felt like it worked really, really well, dealing holy damage to all of the different enemies that we faced. There are a lot of enemies who are susceptible to holy damage. So yeah, I think if you use this, you'll absolutely have a lot of fun. Hope all of you enjoyed this video. Take care.